We are here with Dog Days podcast, episode number 5, with Muzz and his wife Andrea. How you guys doing?
Good.
Good. What's your guys' last name? How you spell your last name?
Taher. T-A-H-E-R.
Say it one more time.
Taher. T-A-H-E-R.
Okay, don't worry about it.
Well, can we start this first of all, because I want to grill you on something, and no pun intended. When we met first in the UK, we were talking about cheese, right? American cheese and UK cheese, and we had a real heated debate. Everybody's there. It was me, you, God knows how many people were around. We went out. I can't remember, Charlie. Everybody was there. It was a big gathering, and we were talking about American cheese versus UK European cheese. Have you changed your perspective on cheese now that you've probably experienced more types of cheese in the world?
Maybe so. So I'm open. So now I do a lot of farming and I don't know if you've seen all my pigs and my farm stuff. So I wasn't living like that when I first came over there, So I'm into more homestead and stuff. So I see all the additives, the fake stuff, and the imitation cheese and what it's really made out of. And yeah, so you can say yes.
You've changed. You've seen the light now.
Yeah.
You understand why I cannot eat cheese that says made of, 60% cheese and doesn't really tell you what that 40% cheese is. What that 40% is.
Definitely. Especially, you kind of got to know what you're eating, especially with the way things are going now with COVID and having your immune system up and trying to, stay healthy.
Yeah, for sure.
You really got to know, what you're putting in your body, because I'm on a decent little diet and I try to stay, fit, work out every now and then. But yeah, COVID, it just took over the world.
Yeah,
it was crazy.
It's been a mess.
While we on that subject, how did that affect you guys, business wise? And
business is all right, because obviously, Dogs isn't our main business, so property is, and we're just going along, meetings and stuff like that. Everything's done online, which isn't a bad thing.
Yeah.
The dog stuff wise, training, it delayed us a lot, because obviously, as you know, we're doing KNPV and we have to travel to Holland once every 2 weeks or almost every weekend. And obviously that stopped us traveling for almost 2 years. So literally we have to train on our own, with a small group of us at Rockmore, and just basically maintaining and trying almost, we're pushing the dogs quite hard now, because, obviously the border might be open soon and traveling might get easier. But yeah, that really delayed a lot of our plans. We hoped to have titled last year, let's say, and now it's going to have to be next year.
It's been a real struggle. Yeah. I think for dogs wise, it's been a struggle. I think we've used it, I think, proactively. We've not, what we haven't done, I think, which is good, it's in our nature. I don't think we're the type of people that kind of give up and put everything to a side. So we have trained the dogs. They've all come along in a lot of those weaknesses that they had. They've all improved. Where dog-wise, probably we're struggling is the finesse. And with KNPV, you can learn it off a book. You've learned nothing. You can learn it off a video. You've learned nothing. You can, all of this kind of possibilities of learning, it really, until you're there in a club where they tell you, the difference between one thing and the other, it's the difference between 4 points and no points. And it's kind of, you think you're doing everything right, but then until you see the finesse, the detail, that's where it's been difficult. So without the guidance of some of those, professionals, or let's say more experienced guys, mentors, it was just, it's been very, very difficult. You can send videos and obviously they critique and send you stuff back, but it's just not the same until you see it with your own eyes. But yeah, I mean, apart from that, to be fair, Andrea said it, business has been good. We've been busy. Muzmuztv continues to grow. It still does what it does. We're covering the nationals. Despite COVID, we're now the official live stream of the KNPV nationals.
That's great.
So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And that's on, I don't know when we're launching this out, but it'll be on the 3rd and the 4th of September. So that'll be pretty cool. So everybody can watch that for free wherever they are, COVID or no COVID. So yeah, we've been busy doing our thing, but yeah, could be better. Always could be better.
Yeah, so I mean, it hasn't really affected me much. Like I said, I'm on this the property that I'm on. It's a lot of space, and I kind of just stay to myself. I do a few board and train dogs, and it's not really too bad. It also helped me a lot, like
Yeah.
just you don't have to do all of the everyday stuff that I was doing before, stuff that I thought that I needed. You don't really need. It just kind of shows you like how little you
Yeah.
need to interact with such and such or do
Totally.
these certain tasks a day. And then I really got to myself and, start doing it. Like I wouldn't be doing this without it, like just, you get a lot of time to think, a lot of ideas. And I spent a lot of time with my kids, which,
Oh, that's
which
awesome.
is crazy. So I'm having fun with this. But how did you, what made you switch from, like what we was doing before, just a lot of just action, to the KNPV side, which is kind of like what I did now. So right now I'm in a shooting club just because I just wanted to do something different and kind of switch it up. So what made you guys switch to what you guys are doing now?
Wow, it was, I think, I think the more deep-rooted like reason is probably because, like, let's say in UK we have trials like night trial, which is happening this weekend. We have La More Defend and Pursue, and those two are sort of like the biggest events of the year, which is all about bite, and a lot more there's control beforehand, but obviously I think everyone's more into the biting stuff, without control. There's obviously a lot of IPG clubs here, but it's not really my thing. And then obviously we traveled to Holland a couple of times, and I was like, oh, this is amazing. How the dogs come in the long sand, the control. The dogs are like, just it was mind blowing. Yeah, the first few times that we've been, and I was like, you know what, I want to do this. I want to try. And obviously back then we only had two of our dogs, Demon and Hanzo. And we thought, you know what, Hanzo did all the crazy stuff, blah, blah, blah. I had a little bit of control, and I thought, you know what, let's see whether he's going to do it or not. Like, he's going to be my first dog to just play with, and I was like, you know what, let's see whether he's got or not. And it sort of went from there, obviously it was quite a big learning curve for the dog and for us. It was very eye-opening, all of the trainings, what is expected of a dog and stuff like that. And then we just sort of gone from there. And then obviously afterwards, we've got Raz now as well, that's doing KNPV, who started in KNPV. He didn't do none of the crazy stuff. He started literally in KNPV, and we've been enjoying the journey. It's quite a nice sport.
Yeah, for me, I think it's partly obviously learning something new. And I think as a trainer, you will never really excel until you have to solve problems. I think before that, it's all theory until you get to the point of actually having to solve problems. And you won't solve problems without having a goal to solve problems in order to achieve being set for you. That's one. Two, for me, I think it's also fairness. And I've it's no secret. I say it how it is. I think working dogs, big part of it still remains ego. A lot of times I think the handler writes the checks for the dogs that sometimes the dogs shouldn't even be able to or shouldn't be allowed to cash. And I think that's always been a big thing for me. Whereas, is it fair? Is what we're doing with the dogs fair? And that fairness, I think, it starts to diminish over time. We're all, I think, breeders and trainers, and the kind of dogs you like and I like and Andrea likes, and all the people that you know and talk about, we like a certain level of dog. Most dogs will tick that 99% of stuff that you put in front of them. An average dog bred nowadays with the right type of drives and mentality will tick those boxes that 30, 40 years ago were probably more challenging for dogs. Now it's become more a question of, okay, it's ticked that 99% of stuff. Let's now set it up to see where it fails. And I think training in that mentality, I never think it's a fair way to do it. If you're training to find failure consistently, you're effectively, just think of it.
But what you mean is more testing, though.
Yeah, it's a more testing mentality, and the testing mentality,
testing raw genetics.
Yeah, exactly.
Training.
Exactly. So you're constantly testing raw genetics. Okay, but there comes a point when you go, you've done that now till the cows come home. We get it. Okay, the dog can take a hit. The dog can take a stick hit. The dog can take a bottle hit over the head. Whatever it is that you want to do, that you want to test it with. but you're testing the same thing over and over again in the same way, but you're varying the method of testing. So if you think about a typical trial, testing with a canister, testing with a stick, testing with a man versus testing. At what point have we tested the other attributes of the dog? So that bit where you have the dog here is testing with a decoy. At what bit have we tested the dog with a handler? And that was where me and Andrea probably started to look at this and go, nobody's really testing how strong the dog is when he has to perform under pressure from the handler. And that under pressure isn't going, there's a guy going to be over there in a canister and he's going to be in covert, or he's going to be, that to me is done till the cows come home. I wouldn't own a dog that doesn't have that flammability in it.
Mm-hmm.
But how many dogs are being tested on this side of the fence where you say, right now, I want you to go and search under control and find, let's say, this article. Now I want you to be on a down while this distraction's going on. Now I want you to come heel next to me and not bite the decoy, right? And I think it's a skewed thing now we have in the dog world where we go, the dog that's out of control, that's completely mental and crazy and looks like a crank job, especially here in the UK, which I think has changed a lot over the past 2-3 years, but that's perceived as the strong dog. Whereas me and you both know that ain't a strong dog. The dog that's under control, that's sitting there waiting, going, let me go, let me go, let me go. But I'm going to listen because you've really enforced this fucking sit or this down. That to me is the dog that I'm more interested in looking at. And as I said, I think Andrea said it right. All the other sports we love. I think there is no, we have, Mondio, PSA, all of these others. I think there was
PSA. I might try.
PSA is something we want to look at in the future, but I think for now, for us, KNPV is for sure the type of sport that ticks the boxes of the type of dogs we like.
I will say this, with your dog coming straight out of the KNPV program, you probably can take him straight on the PSA field, learn the routine, and do it, and not have a problem. So I always felt like a well-trained dog is super versatile. You can do anything. All you have to do is switch him to each venue. And what separates dogs at a higher level, because I used to show dogs in AKC for confirmation before I got into protection dog work. And once you get to a certain level of dog to where all the dogs are champion, you're competing against other champions. What separates the good from the great dogs is the ability to show, like going in the ring and be able to stack and stand still and be like a statue for 5 minutes, and the judge is reviewing them, and it's the way they show. So it's the same thing in dogs. It separates good dog from great dog. 2 dogs can possess the same things genetically, and one person does a lot of like control work with them, and he's versatile. Just say that he can do multiple things. That's what separates good from great to me. Because there's a lot of dogs that bite. That's coming to that have all the courage in the world, but it doesn't look great until it's refined. You know what I'm saying?
As I think as the UK is predominantly a breeder's market. I think the UK has historically been a breeder's market. It's owners and breeders market. Majority of the kind of people that would be dealing with dogs, working dogs, are historically been involved in breeding. So it's a lot of genetic testing as opposed to training that's been interested or interesting for everybody to see. And I think that element is where some of our European counterparts are a little bit better. Okay, the Dutch are also well known to part and sell dogs and breed dogs. But let's say, for example, the Belgians who hold on to dogs for quite often they'll hold on to their dogs to the end of their life. It's a different mentality. And you even look at ring. Ring is, level 1, level 2, level 3. You do ring, multiple times at level 1, multiple times at level 3. It's not you do it once, it's gone. The dog's finished, and it's over. Now you either sell it or you do whatever you want to do with it. That's where I say the interesting thing in the UK, where we've had the mentality of trials, and I think trials they've been done now. They've been done. How many times can you do that same test over and over again? And I think it also reduces your gene pool of the type of dogs you can select from, because you've tested only one aspect, haven't you? You've constantly tested that same type of test test, you know.
Well,
Does that make
KNPV
sense?
has been the place where American people go to get
Correct.
dogs that of the caliber that we're looking for. For the most part, you have some that don't pan out, and some of that is because of the style of training it took to get that dog to where he was in the program. But the part that you're talking about is, I think some of that is needed, and that's probably a reason why you guys have such good dogs. When I came over there, we worked, I think it was like 40 dogs. It was something crazy like that. It was a lot of dogs, and the softest dog is a decent dog here. You got what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Versus we have dogs that don't bite at all. Like, I mean, we had to work them up, and like, they're not the typical Malinois puppy that comes out of the womb. As soon as he's able to move around, he's biting on stuff super mildly. That's how the breed should be. And then you start.
That's how it is. Yeah. If you're not breeding that, what are you doing? You know, for Malis, if you're not breeding that, there's nothing. I remember a few years back where people were really excited when their dogs were biting, you know, at young age. And we were kind of like, it's a Mali, it should be doing this. There's nothing, you've not done anything here that's particularly special. Where I think the Dutch have done a phenomenal job in being able to produce dogs. And I think there's, you know this and I know this, there's the decoy, the trainer, the breeder, you know, they're all different people. And I think where the Dutch have done a really good job of this is the trainer takes the dog and is testing the dog in all the disciplines. So whereas in America, you guys want a good hunt drive. You want dogs with a good nose. You want dogs that can take corrections. You want dogs that will engage in a battle and enough courage. And that's what the police and military are looking for over there, for real, you know, real working dogs. And if you're testing only one aspect of the dog, and that is the ability of that dog to bite under pressure from the decoy, you've now not tested nose, you've not tested hunt, you've not tested the ability to control, you know. So all these things haven't been tested, and now you're constantly breeding for that one eventuality. And that's where I say I think is one of the big reasons why the UK struggles to have a clear format of what is the correct dog. Because the correct dog in a trial this year could be the dog that is big, strong, muscular, and is able to, you know, withstand quite a bit of pressure from a decoy. Next year, it's about a dog that's quite nimble and small and can get into small pockets of spaces and goes into water or does whatever, you know? So each year that formula changes, whereas what the Dutch have done correctly is, because KNPV's been a study for 100+ years, that is the formula. Your dog needs to tick all those boxes. How it gets there as a trainer is on you. You know, so some lines are less driven than other lines, but they have other features that you know how to bring out of the dog to make them do something. Some don't have the great hunt drive, but they have other fantastic attributes. But in order to certify that dog has to do those exercises. It isn't fluke. You know, it's not it's a routine, but it isn't a fluke. You know, that dog has to go and find those articles, has to go and do, you know, the courage test. It has to do this. So that's where I say I think having that system means you produce better dogs consistently, as opposed to good dogs for that particular year, you know, where that dog is done well, which might suit, you know, 10 or 20% of the population.
So how much of that do you think is the trainer versus, because I've seen dogs and I've seen like somebody have a litter. They'll just say there's 5 puppies. And then all of the puppies seem like, I wouldn't say washes, but they're like a mid-tier dog. And then they go with somebody who understands real like dog communication and all that. This dog becomes phenomenal. It titles and goes to the highest level, whatever venue that it's in. Then they breed that dog. It never produces itself again. So what I'm saying is, how much do you think that the trainer can mask a lot of all these holes versus a dog being genetically sound?
Really good question.
It's a very good question. I always say it's 50-50.
Yeah.
You can have the greatest dog with the best genetics, but a bad handler will ruin it. It can get to a point, you know, but at the end of the day, I think it comes to a point where maybe the dog's 2 or 3, the dog will get ruined by then. You can have a mediocre dog, but a very good trainer can mask a lot of the problems. And you're right, in a sense that in certain sports, you can bring that dog to a very high level. Sometimes we've spoken this before, but the dogs that go to the highest level aren't necessarily
the best dogs.
So there are some dogs that are very difficult in training, and they probably aren't able to go to the highest level. They still go to a good level, but not to the highest of levels, you know? And that's when you say, like, whether someone's got a good eye or not, and you can see certain things, especially during training, you know, how a dog copes, how a dog reacts. You know, a lot of these things, obviously, like on Facebook and stuff, you can't judge it. You have to actually know the dog or watch the dog.
See it training.
See it, you know, watch it during training for me to say, you know what, that's a good dog, even though he might muck up on certain exercises compared to another dog that's performing brilliantly, you know. So you need to look at different traits, and I think that's through experience eyes.
Yeah, I think there's
and you know, genetically to breed, yeah, obviously most people want to breed the most, you know, decorated dog. You know, people think, oh wow, on paper this dog is blah 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 blah, 10 achievement.
That's not how it works.
It's definitely, you know, a good producer.
Yeah.
No,
it's
not necessarily. No. For me, you know, everyone's got like a different type of definition of what a good producer is. For me, it's more like whether the dog throws himself or herself, like there's certain traits that the dog, what that was, how can I put it, like a trait that makes that dog special, so, let's say.
Let me
and I would want to see whether that would go into offspring with different females.
Yeah.
That to me.
Andrea is absolutely right on this, and that's the thing. Remember, geneticist. Yeah, so this isn't coming from somebody who doesn't have a clue what they're talking about. This is a geneticist talking. The mistake is people go, okay, good dog, good female, we make good puppies. Almost certainly, very rare for that to happen. It's a mishmash. You'll get usually a puddle of 10 pups, and 1 or 2 might be good, the rest might be washouts, and it doesn't matter, you know, how many trainers you give them to, they probably won't be able to succeed getting anything out of those, some of those pups. What you need to look at as a breeder, and you know, I'm not a breeder, but I can, what you need to look at is dogs that produce particular type of traits. And when I say particular type of traits, so let's give it an example, yeah? If you want to create a type of dog for a type of person, for a type of sport, you need, for example, hunt drive, right? So let's just say you want a dog with a great nose. The theory goes is if you're breeding a dog that, I don't know, is a titled dog in this and a dog that's titled dog in that, the assumption is it's going to have great hunt drive because look, it's done the job. That's where your bit with training comes in. If you know the dog very well, you might know that that trainer has put all his time in getting that dog to learn to do this little exercise.
Yeah.
And he's put all this time and all this effort to make it work, when actually genetically the dog has got a terrible hunt drive.
Mm-hmm.
But that breeding then is what you've done. If you haven't complemented it, if that female, for example, comes from that type of dog, you need to understand that dog, and that's why lines are so important. And you know, that's really overlooked all the time. People look at the dog, okay, the dog is great, but what is it? What's the line that it comes from? What is the genetic line that it usually throws? That particular dog could be a complete hybrid vigor. It's a total random dog that's come out that will never reproduce itself. But then you need to complement it with a line that is producing hunt drive. And to be able to understand when to outcross, when to incross, when to inbreed, when to, you know, that I think is a difficult part. And that's where I say 50-50, Andrea's 100% right. The puppy should have bare basic genetics. The bare basic genetics is good drives of every one of those things that you need. You know, it's able to do this, and this. But a puppy will do fuck all if you just leave it to be a puppy. Anybody who says their dog is genetically strong to the point where he can take a pup, put it in a room for 3 years and take it out at 3 years and go and do a KNPV title with it, is talking out of their arse. You know, there's no such thing as genetically perfect, right? There's no such, you have to train it to get to that stage. So then it's on, all you can do as a breeder is give somebody the raw ingredients. The pup should have the raw ingredients. Then it's for you to either tweak it up, tweak it down, know how to manipulate it, how to work it, and how to do things.
Some do not have the genetic material.
And if they don't, you could see that from a really young age. You
like
could
nerve, let's say nerve is one thing that, you know, people
drive. Also, I don't think you can create, if the dog doesn't have the drive early on, it will never have the drive. You can, again, that's where masking comes in. You can mask it and create this fake, you know, I'll use food to entice the dog to touch the sleeve. I'll create a bit more, you know, hold the sleeve for longer, give it food, click, 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 you know. You've done that, great, but take the dog away. If he doesn't have the drive to bite, he will fold when the picture changes. You know, so you could play all these gimmicks and this kind of, you know, positive, you know, I give a bit of negative, give a positive, it's all rubbish when it comes to real deployment. At the end of the day, if the dog doesn't have it in its heart to want to come out and get into drive, get into that state of mind, you're not going to create it. You can artificially mask it for all you want with any system that's out there, but it's not going to be the real thing.
Right. So I've ran into something else different too since I've, you know, the whole bull herder thing with Chloe and Scott. Those dogs to me are not as drivey as a typical Malinois. You got me?
Yeah.
But when it comes down to working, they perform at a high level, without all of the neurotic Malinois stuff. You know what I'm saying? It kind of takes that out. Yeah. So, and I've just been noticing like there's other breeds that the picture looks different when you're evaluating the dog. You know, like I'm evaluating them like Malinois, and then I'm like, oh, he does this different. This is not the same. Like my dog would lose his mind, like a Malinois would lose his mind for the ball. I could put it outside the cage. He's gonna scream and holler at the bark at it for, you know, 10, 15 minutes. They're not going to do that. He's going to look at it and be like, okay, it's not, you know, he'll give you a little bit behind it, but I took him hunting with me to, you know, to the hog hunt. I took him, you know, did a lot of stuff with him, and his bite work, he's fine. And then he just catches on to everything. Like the first time you tell him, it's not a whole lot of, you know, so I'm learning too. He's just a learning experience, just having a different breed, even though he has have a Malinois influence.
Yeah, I personally think, you know, it's personal preference. What each, you know, a Mali, a really highly trained Mali can be an arsehole to live with. And I can definitely see the appeal of, let's say, having the bull breed added in, you know, almost that calmness and the stability out of work. And I can, you know, being with a family or just not neurotic in that sense. And I can definitely see the appeal to it. So I think at the end of the day, it depends, you know, personal preference, what I like even between me and Muz, sometimes what I like in a dog is a little bit different to what he likes, you know. So I don't think there's right and wrong. But yeah, we've seen quite a few good ones, haven't we? In
the Mali mentality, this is the thing with Malinois. When I say Malis, I'm going to include herders as well. Yeah, so Dutch herders and Malis I'm going to put under the same bracket of Mali. There's a range of bloodlines. I mean, there is seriously a crazy range of bloodlines, and they're so different. Each bloodline will give you something very different. And if you're a student of dogs and bloodlines and breeding and whatever, you can appreciate the range of flavors that you have. It isn't just, oh, it's a Mali, it's fawn, it's got a tail, a bushy tail, oh, it's got to be they're all the same, they're all going to work the same. That is I think is a very lazy, it's a very lazy thing to think about. And I'll be honest with you, when we were, you know, all three of our dogs are bred abroad. None are bred here. It's not because I don't think breeders here are any good or not or whatever. It's got nothing to do with that. It's because what we wanted to do is get as close as possible to that bloodline that we like and get it from that source that created that thing. Yeah, so that's the thinking behind it. So for the sake of argument, we can use any of our dogs as an example, but it's a simple one. Let's say Razi. He was bred in Belgium by Yvonne, who bred Dags, who is Pearl de Tibier bloodline. And that, to me, is as close as I'm going to get to what I want, is right there, you know? So when you take it, there isn't anything that comes very close. He is, yeah, wow, crazy, all the madness in it. I understand that concept. But if I was a person that enjoyed a dog that's generally calm, quite relaxed, isn't particularly mental out and about here, there are Malinois lines in Belgium and Holland and France, which I can point you to and say, that's the dog. They're well known to be pretty chilled. And even between our three Malis, they are so distinctly different. You know, there is literally nothing that unites them.
But let's say Josh, you can't take a Mali to hunting.
Right. So hunting is different. So this is jobs for dogs, right?
Yeah. So it's different purposes.
If you're
so
saying,
I can see the purposes of bull herders where you can bring
the
them
use
to
of them,
boars and stuff like that. Where a Mali, you can't do
it's
that.
not really about that type of, you know, it's not about that crazy.
You want a versatile type of.
Yeah.
You know,
I think this though. I think that you can. It's just we don't. You got what I'm saying? Like
Maybe, yeah.
we
because
took
nobody does it.
Marcus's dog hunting with us. He did fine. He did phenomenal. He's a Malinois.
Right.
And he does better than a lot of dogs that were bred to do that. You know,
Right.
so I think it's just the environments, like a lifestyle. Like dogs that are raised on a farm, they act a certain way. Dogs that are raised in the city, live in an apartment, they act a certain way. And then dogs that, you know, are in the household with a trainer that does everything, they live a certain way. And you can kind of see it in the dogs. Like my Frenchies act like Malinois. You know what I'm saying?
Because they're around Mallies.
Right. And I think it's just the environment, you know. I'll get a dog. I can get a dog off the street, and then I'll put him in my kennel, and he's here for a year or two, and he's gonna start acting, you know, similar.
Absolutely, you're absolutely right, and I think that's where I've never been against bull herders or Mali crosses or Mastiff crosses. I honestly, like Andrea said, everybody's got a taste. I can't tell you what to like. You like sushi, I like, you know, Thai food. Hey, you know, that's cool.
Yeah, you eat mashed peas, so I can't.
Right, yeah, mushy peas and chips, right? But you know, that's not my place to tell you what to like. But where I disagree is sometimes where I say, I think it's a lazy comparison that's made. It's that very lazy, you know, Malis sometimes are very highly strung, bull herders aren't, or Malis are this and this aren't. But yeah, you might lose something, but you gain something else. You gain something, but you've lost something else. As I said, like for Mali, what is a Mali for? A Mali's a high octane, constantly working.
You definitely lose some of the stuff that you had in a straight Mal. You definitely lose that.
Yeah.
But then there's pros and cons both ways. So you like, I'll just, you know, take that. So when I'm thinking about when I see him work, I'm thinking of how I want to breed him. And what's good about it is that I can breed him to both ways. Like I can breed him to a pit bull and I can breed him back to a Mal and get more Mal, you know, because they were like 60-something% Malinois anyway. And I just like the versatility. But yeah, you definitely lose some of the stuff that you would like for sport dog stuff. I think you kind of lose some of that.
Andrea said it perfectly. It's what your purpose is with the dog. If your purpose tomorrow, and you say to me, okay, my aim with this dog is I want to be doing, I don't know, bomb detection, for example, for 6 hours straight in Afghanistan, you know, I'll be like, maybe that's not going to be the best dog for you because you need that level of drive to be able to keep bang, 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 go, go. But if you're going to be doing something that isn't so taxing and it requires that much endurance from the dog, because why are Malis so highly strong? They're there for work. These dogs are supposed to be doing 6-hour shifts, 4-hour shifts, 2 hours. You know, they're supposed to be doing long duration and high intensity work for as much time as possible. I mean, you've got to feed them more because they're burning energy just by rotating in their kennel. You know, as you go, for example, typically our bulldogs, which we have bulldogs, they'll be relaxed. They'll be chilling in the kennel. You know, every time I go in and see the bull terrier or Bruce or whatever, they're just relaxing. The bull terriers are sleeping, right? It's just there's no need to be so mental, but you can get that drive out of them. If you're a good trainer, you can get that drive out of them. But they're not naturally boom, 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 boom. Yes. You know, want to go, go, go. And there is no right or wrong answer. And that's where I've always kind of been quite, maybe say some people say I'm hostile towards it. My issue with it hasn't been I don't like it. I just say the fact that you like it shouldn't mean that the other dog is shit because you like that type of thing, right? Correct. Whereas what annoys me is when I hear, oh, Malis are all shit, Malis are all nervy, Malis are this. I say, that's nonsense. You know, maybe you're a crap trainer, right? If every dog you've had, every Mali you've had is nervy, there's something wrong with you, right? Because you can't tell me you've done 10 different, you've tried 10 different lines and every single one of them is nervy. And there's this Mali that's going off to the USA or going off to Israel or going to whatever and is doing, you know, proper work. What is it doing with you that's when you're creating this nerve? You know, you're creating a problem.
Yeah, right. So question, is there like a separation between sport dog people or like just say KNPV people and the stuff that we were doing before? Because I find enjoyment in both and I'm able to separate both. But when you go one place, they're like, oh, I don't like that. Blah, blah. And then you go to the next place, they talk down on it. And I'm like, listen, bro, I want to do what I want to do. Like, I just love to do, you know what I'm saying? Different stuff. And some people.
Yeah,
I
enjoy
personally,
both. Yeah.
I enjoy both. I think there is, like was mentioned before, you test different things,
yeah.
from different dogs. And I like a dog that can do both. That's versatile. I think the problem, again, is the ego thing. My dog is real. It's like, what does that mean? You know what I mean? Like, just because a dog is doing sport doesn't necessarily, it can't be real. Or
Right, right, right. I agree.
it's almost like the sport people. It gets it back and say, you know what? Like, I need to prove a point now because mine's just not a sport dog. There's some dogs that has a character that just does sport, that is just suited to happy-go-lucky, biting the sleeve is all fun and games. There are dogs like that in sport, 100%. But there's also dogs that has more intent in the work, that do sport. So, again, people need to know what they're looking at the end of the day. I've seen dogs that are very serious dogs that do sport, obviously not to the highest level, but they still got titled. And there are serious dogs, dogs that you wouldn't mess around with. Yeah. And then there are also dogs that just happy-go-lucky and play a game of sleeve, game of suit. Also, that that isn't real. But again, as a trainer, you can see that, and people who know the dogs can see it.
Yeah, you can see. This is where it's difficult with the dog world, because there isn't a qualification you need to get in order to be able to converse with someone. Yeah, right. You tomorrow can have 10 days of owning a Malinois or owning a Bull Herder or owning a Mastiff, and you will have as much, you have as much input on a conversation as somebody who's potentially been doing it for 50, 60 years, right? And that's where I think the clever guys know when to shut the fuck up and watch, and that's something we get humbled and turn up to Holland and say, right, show us what to do. And we're just quiet. You tell me what to do. I ain't got to tell you what to do. You know your trade better than I do. But that's not to say that don't question things, right? So going back to your point,
there is a bit of a divide.
There is a divide, but the divide, I think, has been caused not so much, because you got to remember, sports trained dogs go to do real work. Yeah, majority of KNPV dogs will, at some point or another, any real dog that's, when I say real now, I'm saying, let's say, I don't know, a dog that's
street dog, yeah.
It's street dog, right? Yeah. It probably comes from a sport bred background, right? Yes. If you look back in his pedigree, it's come from sport, right? There is no such thing as reals come from the womb is real, right? It's come from the mother or the father.
The training line. This is what I tell people all the time. The difference between a sport dog and a dog that's on the street with the officer or in the military is training. That's it. When I look at the dog, I'm looking at certain characteristics, and I'm like, if I had him or if this person had him, they can do X, Y, Z with him. And but people they don't seem to get that. And then the biggest hack of me just now getting into sports is, if you do personal protection, you're creating a liability. So I feel like I can control all of my dogs just as well as any person who does sport. And I don't even know if you noticed when I was there. I was there in 2018.
Yeah.
That I like the controlled dogs. Like, I think that Tyler did well, and what's this guy's JP, with being able to go through a real life type scenario and still have control over their dog, and the dog can heel, sit down, stay, come. And then when it comes to sport, you just tweaking the precision. You're just getting the dog to focus here, to get his butt around. We're in awareness. It's just a lot different. But go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say what is real, what is not real. But the difference is simple, right? It's effectively the lack of protection. That is the protection that you have as a decoy. People keep saying this shit where this dog is just a suit dog, this dog is a field dog, this dog is the suit, the sleeve is for your protection as a decoy. It isn't for the fucking dog, right? The dog shouldn't really distinguish between that's a sleeve, that's a suit, that's a covert, it depends on how you're training the dog. And then it goes back to the point of the type of dog that you have. And it goes back to the start of a puppy. When I look at a dog from day dot, 7, 8 weeks old, I'm looking at, does it go from 0 to 100 really quickly? And is it blind in that state of mind? Now, you got to remember, a pup at the age of 7, 8 weeks old doesn't understand the concept of this is a sleeve, this is a covert, it just goes, rah, and I'm biting to whatever I can bite on. Now, does that dog at that stage become a real dog or a sport dog from the moment it makes contact there. It doesn't know it's bit the arm.
Yeah,
it doesn't know it's bit the speed. So when that moment your dog is going from 0 to 100 and is able to make that contact, and me personally, I call it that killer instinct. If it's got that killer instinct, I can work with that. Everything else is trainable. That is difficult, yeah. Nerve, yes, you can't really work around it, but there's tolerances, I suppose, you can have. But that killer instinct is key. If a dog doesn't have that killer instinct, you'll always be trying to motivate it to do that job. And this is where this sport versus real comes from, in my opinion. So then you have this type of dog that doesn't want to bite, yeah? You now create frustration. Now, what do you do when you create frustration? You're back tying the dog, you're frustrating it for an item, yeah? You're no longer frustrated because the dog isn't interested in biting. He's interested in, oh, let me chase that. He's a little bit of a dodo. Oh, okay, I'm interested now. Okay, yeah, I'll hold on to it for a bit. It loses the grip. Cool, let's make that frustration more. Add the whip, add the clack. So you've now created a dog that becomes reactive only for particular stimuli and only for particular equipment, because it genetically doesn't have the ability to go from that 0 to 100 quick enough. And that's how I train. That's how she trains a Mali to be that way. Now, when I transition a dog from 7 weeks old, when he's going crazy and he wants to bite the sleeve, during the 3 years or whatever he's doing KNPV or doing sport or doing whatever, it's not thinking, I am biting a sleeve here, and this, if it gets to flesh, I will stop biting. The dog doesn't know that. He goes from, boom, I am biting. I don't really give a shit what's in front of me. I'm biting now, right? And that dog, when it's finished that system, it's only a routine because we're enforcing the pressure on the dog to say, this is the way I want you to bite. The minute you take that pressure off and say, hey, game's on, you can bite where the hell you want. Guess what? I'm not going to tell you no when you do this. All of a sudden, you change the routine from the decoy going, hey, 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 for the bicep. All of a sudden, the decoy is wearing a covert and he's behind a corner. The dog needs just one switch to change from that moment of, I'm in a routine to, this ain't a routine anymore, but I'm enjoying it like I was enjoying that routine. And that element people constantly don't understand, and I think is where it becomes really difficult. It's all to do with the level of dog you have when you start to do whatever you're doing. That same real versus fake bullshit can apply as much to personal protection dogs, it can apply as much to police dogs, and it can apply as much to, a special forces dog. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just how you've introduced and how that dog's thresholds are for that type of job that it's doing. And that's why I say why I like particular type of dog that goes to 110 miles an hour, when it needs to. If it's not doing that, it's a thinking dog. It's like, oh, what am I biting? Am I feeling this? Oh, I don't know. Maybe I like the suit. I like the sleeve. Oh, I prefer the rag. I'll go back to the rag. I prefer back the sleeve. And that to me is not the type of dog that we own. But it doesn't matter what I'm doing with it. It doesn't matter if I'm doing sport or doing, prison riots. It's the same type of dog. It's just the routine that I'm doing with it that changes.
Right. So I'm gonna switch it up for a minute. So when I know when I first met you guys, I just had the vibe that both of you like two different types of dogs, right?
Yeah.
And wanted to do two different things with y'all's dogs. So when you guys met, if you can expound on that, and how did you get into dogs and where, you know what I'm saying, like that, and then how do you come together to be like-minded?
How we very first met?
Yes.
We have nothing to do with dogs.
Okay.
She didn't have a dog. I didn't have a dog. I hated dogs. I was afraid of dogs.
I had dogs, but
not proper dogs.
Not proper dogs.
Just pets. So we had no. There was no time to. I'll tell you the story behind our dogs.
No. Tell us how we met first.
Oh, how we met is a long story. That's for another day. That's for me and you and everybody else to be out having a drink and we could discuss that. But it's nothing to do with dogs. Literally, me and Andrea had no connection to dogs. We were not interested. I mean, I was doing my own thing. Andrea was doing her own thing. She was a veterinary nurse. I was doing legal. It was just literally nothing, no connection. So when we got together, we lived together. We had an attempted break-in. And at the time, Andrea was talking about getting a Frenchie, a French bulldog, right? As like our pet couple, we're fresh new couple, we thought we'd get a Frenchie. And I was like, okay, we've just had a like attempted break-in. I was like, you know what, fuck this. I was like,
Don't forget, you didn't like
and I
dogs.
hated
You were
dogs.
scared
You gotta remember
dogs.
the
Scared
culture.
of
Yeah, the
dogs.
culture
You were
I come
scared
from.
of dogs.
Yeah, the culture I come from. Dogs are not seen as your best mate. They're
Mhm.
like things on the road that will probably give you rabies. You don't want to be near them. You don't want to come close to them. You don't want to touch them. I see a dog like cross the road, you know. So this is
Right.
you can imagine the kind of transition that I've gone from that state of mind to now owning the craziest dogs you can imagine, right? So
Right.
I'm like, okay, Andrea, if we are going to get a dog, let's get a real dog. Let's get a security dog, a protection dog. Let's get a German Shepherd, right? At the time, that's all we knew. So we bought a puppy, this 4-month-old, and at the time I was like, this dog cannot be in the house. I was like, it cannot be I was like, I created a little house for him in the back of my house. It was like a little shed for him, and I did all this kind of great things for this dog that I thought he's going to be living outside. And day one, we bring him home, and I put him outside. I put him in his little dog house. I put a little bowl of water and a little bowl of food. And I went in the house, I was washing my hands, you know, sanitizing from this fucking dog, right? I was like, I cannot get dirty. I don't want to get this fleas and shit on me, right? And I look and I see the rain is now coming down, and I see this dog near the patio, just standing there, just looking at me with his eyes, just puppy eyes. And I thought, oh, what are you doing? I was like, he's getting wet. So I was like, take him, come on, Byron. I put him back in his house. I come back, wash my hands again, I decontaminate myself. And I see this dog now, it's getting really bad. The rain is getting proper bad. And I'm looking at him, and I'm like, oh my God, what's going on? I take him out for the third time, and I come back again, I'm washing my hands, and this dog is at the end of the patio. He's lying there like this with his head on his paw. Rain is falling on his head. And I just looked at myself in the mirror, and I was like, what kind of a human am I? I was like, take the dog in, come here, buddy. You know, I loved him up. And, you know, he became pretty much a house dog. I mean, he was a half working, half a pet. But true story, 6 months into owning him with very minimal security work, we'd done nothing, really near nothing with him. We had a break-in. 2 people broke into our house with balaclavas and crowbars. And again, another funny story. I was asleep. The dog's at the end of the stairwell, and I had a really important job. The dog starts barking at 4 a.m, and I'm like, Byron, shut the you know, I thought this dog's barking because of a fox outside or a cat or something. And I'm shouting at this dog, and the dog's going ballistic. I remember just telling Andrea, I was like, this dog is pissing me off. I'm so sick of him. I go to sleep, wake up the next day, my front door's wide open. I didn't think anything of it. But I was missing a jacket, right? So I thought Andrea threw the jacket away. She then told me, I'll prove to you I never threw the jacket away. Look at the CCTV footage. I'm looking at the CCTV footage, and I see these 2 guys walk in, Byron, this 6-7-month-old pup, running, chasing them out the house, you know, with their, you know, they're dropping their shit. And when I felt so guilty, I bought the biggest steak you can imagine, gave it to this dog. And, you know, when his hips went, we paid whatever we could to get him replaced, and he lived with us till 2 years ago, where a year and a half ago he passed away.
How long ago was that before you got really into working? Like before you got Demon?
Oh, that was Byron. Byron was our first dog, and we started training him. That was the kind of the beginning, and that's why I said we never did pets. We went straight to working dogs. The first thing we did was, how do we train this German? After he did that, we were like, right, cool. Now we need to train him to be a proper working dog. We knew a little bit,
stuff like that.
Bit of IPO type work, and she was doing most of the work, not me.
Yeah, and then we just trained him. You know, went to obviously like we started work Britannia Canine, isn't it? And then that's where we started training there. You know, seeing the IPG. You know, back then, and we saw security type training, personal protection type training. Yeah. And then we just gone from there, isn't it?
Yeah,
it just
kept growing and growing.
Just kept growing, and then we went to Holland a few times.
We bought a dog from Holland,
and that's when we bought the first Maddie.
Didn't like him.
That didn't make the grade pretty much back then. So we're like, oh, you know. Then we kept searching, and then we actually got Hanzo first. And on the way back, we got Demon.
Demon was an accident. So Demon's another fantastic story, which kind of gives you the type of person I am, a little bit insight into who I am.
A bit impulsive.
Very impulsive. Andrea had done all of her homework. She knew everything about the dog. She knew where he was coming from. She had the plan set out. She knew exactly what she was going to do with this dog, where he's going, what he's doing, all of that, right? So we go there, we meet him, we see him. He's a great dog, really nice, 4 months old at the time. We're like, cool, put him in the van. We're about to leave, and I see this little black rat-looking thing barking, screaming, attaching itself to, at the time, Danny Lyons' back of his legs, and Hein was holding the brother, and that one was holding onto the back of his legs. And I remember looking at Andrea and going, what the hell is that? I'd never seen a dog that crazy before. Never. Literally, all of my time, I've never seen a crazy dog like that. I look up and I just see this little crazy thing just going, and at the time, there was a guy called Thomas Eaton. He was taking one and Danny was taking the other. And they went into Thomas's van, and I just saw this little dog with his teeth on the kennel, just going, trying to break out to fight his brother. And I just looked at Danny, and we were driving back home. I sent him a message saying, look, Danny, before he gets into your house, which is 6 hours away, tell me what the price is to own him. And I knew very little at that stage about what I wanted to do with him, why I wanted him. I just loved that dog. I thought, he's so crazy. I've got to have this asshole. We arrived in London. And you know, I made Danny an offer he couldn't refuse, and he became mine. And the rest is history, right? So yeah, he's been a challenge. He's a difficult dog. I don't think it was easy. I think for a first dog, he was, you know, really tough. But I think it was a baptism of fire. And to be honest, I wouldn't change a thing about that. You know, I think without him, I wouldn't be who I am today. He was hard work, and because of him, our other three dogs are better, you know, because of understanding how you, because as I said to you, the culture here was you take the lead, you go to the trainer, you pay your money, and they do what they got to do. You just go home, you know, that's it. You don't know what happened in between, and you know when. And it was only from trying to understand what was going on with Demon that I started to really understand dog behavior, drives, genetics, what needs to happen, decoy work. Decoy work was something that I had no idea about. To me, it was anybody in a suit was the same. Anybody with a sleeve was the same. I was like, damn, you need different type of decoy for different type of work. And I'll say it because I know in America, you guys, I have to give credit where credit is due, because Jay, at the time I was talking to a lot to Jay, and obviously,
I know you're talking about.
Yeah, I know he's not everybody's favorite person, and I've got to give credit, man. I'm not going to take that away from someone, but he did say a lot of stuff at the time, and I think that's where I remember when we were doing Muzmuztv when it first came out, I got a lot of heat for it. It's like, yo, why are you doing this? I said, dude, the guy's helping me out with things, you know, like
bro, he can train, bro. He can train. Like, people don't know how to separate. Like, the art of doing something. If somebody can play basketball, I'm going to credit their basketball and separate the fact that he beat up his wife or whatever. Like, you know what I'm saying? He can play basketball. Yeah. He can train. I like his training. I don't know much about him as a person, but I like the stuff that he's done as a trainer.
When I met him, I didn't kind of go, give me your life story. I would like to assess you as a person, as your internal being and your spiritual beliefs. Yeah, Hanzo's out of Repo. So Hanzo is a Repo son.
Yes.
And he was bred while Jay was out in Holland. That's where we met. So we met this American dude. And at the time, if you think of how we're two English people gone over there amongst Dutch, all Dutch, and there's this one American dude who's the fucking craziest one of them all. So we're like, okay, cool, I'll talk to him, right? Because I understand his language, he understands mine, we can have a conversation. And that's literally it. But as I said, he during that time, over the course of 2, 3 years, while Hanzo's still young and Demon is still young, you know, a lot of people were closing the door on training, because the way people were treating training was effectively, I'm the trainer, this is me, you pay money for me, I'm not going to tell you what I do, you just got to trust me, right? You've got to trust me. And to me, I'm a scientist, I can't do that. I can't just come to you and say, here's my money, you do what you need to do and I'll just walk away. I need to understand what you're doing. And that was near impossible to get in the UK with anybody. And to be honest, anywhere. I was asking people, what is the, you've got to see the dog, you know, you've got to do this. But I was like, it doesn't mean shit to me, right? I've got a problem, I need it fixed. How do I fix it? And then it was Jay who would spend that time and explain, this is how I do it, this is why I do it, this is the drive, this is this, this is this. And as I said, it was very refreshing at the time. And I think it's something I think is lacking in a lot of trainers' attitude towards training. I think they feel that, you know, I'm a magician, I'm an artist, I cannot share my secrets with anyone, I don't want to tell you, you know, and I think that's bullshit. I think people are smart enough to be able to do things, right? You just tell them.
Especially in this time. I mean, the internet, it's easy to connect with people. It's not like before. When I was a kid, you had to go to the library. They had like dog training for dummies. You know what I'm saying? Like there's there's none of that no more. Like you can't. Now I can pull up a video. I can listen to like a Dave Croyer. I can go enroll in you know, a Bart Bellin course or something like that, and then I can the education is there, you know. And then when you want to switch it up, because in my growth, like when I first started training dogs, I was training a lot of compulsion, right? No, almost zero reward. Yeah, and my dogs got really far with that. And so when I wanted to switch it up, it wasn't like a whole lot of support for me switching it up. And they're like, oh man, what are you doing with that clicker? Oh, what you doing with that, the treats and this and that? And I had pouches and balls and, you know, and a lot of people weren't really a fan of that, you know, like protection people. And then, but it's kind of a thing that you have to just keep quiet and just kind of show versus, you know, because I know when I first started watching you guys, this was way even before, I think Hansa was young. Maybe I had been over there. I'm not sure. But when Andrea first started putting the obedience on him, because I don't even think he was just crazy. Yeah. And you can see the change like super quick. It's like, okay, I studied this. This is how you heal. This is how you sit. And it was just looking good, like really, really fast. And a lot of people don't know that if you take your time in almost anything and spend some time and educate yourself, it's you know, the application. But you have a little bit of advantage because I train dogs for a living. And training pets helps you out like with problem solving.
For sure.
For what she does with the obedience, I mean, I'll say it how it is. She's amazing at it. Like she's got the patience, she's got the touch, she's got the ability to work with the dogs and, you know, really get the best out of them in that department. And she has ability to do that almost instinctively. And that's something that I think almost, I say some men generally, me for sure, I think we're less patient. And I think that's something that I struggle with, you know, as a handler, as a trainer, whatever it is, but definitely. But we have our strengths as well.
Yeah, I think, you know, obviously, like when you train a dog, some people ask me, you know, I get this a lot, like online. Let's say we got the Muzmuztv Instagram, you know, our personal dog's Instagram. Obviously, we've got a lot of followers there, and a lot of people message us all the time. Well, how do you do this? How do you do that? How can I teach my dog to do this type of obedience? Let's say the focused heel and stuff. And you know what? Like I always tell people, it depends on the dog. Like what motivates a dog. You know, each dog is different. As I can't really give you advice because I haven't seen the dog. You know, like let's say even like Chief, who's a 6-month-old, he's got that fancy show pony type heel. Hanzo didn't have that. He had a nice focused heel, but not that type of footwork. And even between Raz, you know, Demon, like they all, how I taught them all differently, you know, depending on their character, you know, what motivates them or what.
Cookie cutter doesn't work.
And you got to improvise. Yeah,
cookie cutter doesn't work. Cookie cutter doesn't work for everything, for even bite work, for protection work, for whatever. I have my personal interest is more in, let's say, the biting and more in terms of the
most like the
bite work, the more intensity stuff, the kind of the calmer stuff. I'm not so good at because I just don't have the patience. I think it doesn't go with my character too well, and I have to bring myself down to make the dogs calm down.
Like Muz is quite a high energy and just, you know, like amped up person, whereas I'm more like calm. So the same dog can be with him is totally different when the dog is with me, you know?
So when you give the dog to, even any of our dogs, when Andrea's doing the obedience with them, for example, it's a calm work.
And just working them in general, they're actually a lot calmer.
A lot calmer. And the minute I take the lead, the same dog will be 50-60% more ramped up and amped
Control
up.
gone.
And it's just that's the I think they feed off the energy and potentially 100%. That's you know, and that's sometimes where I said I struggled with even Demon at the start because he's so you know, kind of head wired the way it is. I'm that type of person and we're kind of feeding off each other's energy, which was a bad mix. Whereas when he's with Andrea, he's a calm dog. He's like, cool, I'm just gonna walk, I'm happy, I don't want to kill people, I'm pretty relaxed, you know, I don't have an issue. With me, it was God, I don't should admit it on a live stream, but he was a pain, you know, he was a real pain. He was a menace to society, you know, he was a real piece of shit, you know, it's like really annoying. But you know, you live and learn, don't you? You kind of get older, and like with Raz, it's a lot different. I've put the control with pretty much in everything he does now. I don't let him get away with anything. And that, again, people read that and see, I think it's quite frustrating as well sometimes, because you have a dog that's pretty crazy, and then you have a dog that looks very controlled and very relaxed and isn't reactive, and people are like, oh well, he's not, so he can't be that strong, he must be pretty, you know, he must be pretty soft to do it. And I'm like, no motherfucker, that's because I put it on him from day one. He isn't allowed to think for himself. He cannot think for himself. He's not allowed to be in that state of zone.
So you're gonna,
so it's just having that.
Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, no, that's it. Yeah, this is,
you're gonna do KNPV with Hanzo also?
Yeah.
Hanzo and Ross.
And Ross.
First.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Hanzo first.
I'd say 85-90% ready. He knows all the routines. I've been doing things off-lead. There's some things that still need polishing, because obviously he's done the crazy stuff beforehand. Certain exercise took us at least a year and a half and multiple handling to be able to teach him certain things, you know, with a lot of pressure. So that was quite a learning curve, like when we first started with him, because he was just, you know, everything is just, the box, the bark and hold was,
difficult.
So the bark and hold alone, we had to have 2-line handling him for about a year and a half.
Yeah, it was tough.
And it was tough, you know, and now
he's
got to a point where he's clean, you know, and
it's not even fair, you know. It's not even a fair thing to change the dog from
that. But he managed, and he just
came out of it, and
came out of it like nothing.
It's great. That's why people have to understand persistence and doing things, even when you think that you're not getting results. You're getting like minuscule progress, and then to do something with a dog for a year and a half, most people will give up. Most people will say, "Oh, he's not learning. He's too slow." Da, 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 da. And
I nearly gave up on Saturday.
Yeah, just with an article.
I nearly gave up on. Honest to God, Mum's life. The team will tell you, I gave up. I was like, that's it. I threw my hat. I never throw. When I throw my hat, I mean it. I've thrown my hat. I was like, done. I'm done. I walked away, threw the dog in the
also
kennel.
with sport, like a lot of people are like, oh, I want to do KNPV, I want to do this, and
it's not easy.
Honestly, the learning phase, like puppy learning phase, the whole, you can do the free shit, you can learn.
Everybody does that.
Everyone does it, yeah.
It's a piece of
piss.
That is
the easiest part.
There's some keys, bite the keys.
Proofing the time where we start proofing the dog, and the dog has to perform under pressure, has to perform like with precision. That's when things get really hard, and that takes a year and a half, 2 years at least. And that's in Holland, that takes 2 years.
Right.
Over here, like we, you know, sometimes the dogs still make mistakes, like the object guard. The dog goes a little bit too early for my liking, you know, like it's just one of those things. It just goes. I might have 4 weeks of perfection, and then the 5th week, the dog will decide to go a little bit early and not outing in the object guard. You know, so you just have to be like, and just keep going,
right.
Go back 2 steps, redo, retrain it, and then go forward again, you know. And I think a lot of people don't have that patience to having to go back 2 steps, 3 steps even to the basics. That's challenging sport.
So what I wanted to say is, just give you guys a lot of credit, because I think that American people and the people in the UK, people abroad, you guys together have been the bridge between the US, the UK, or Europe and the United States for a long time. And I don't think that people give you credit when they're selling dogs. All that is because of you guys made that introduction and gave the platform for the interactions to happen. You get what I'm saying? Now people are tuned into AVD trials and the night trials, and I think you did my competition one time, the throwdown. So it's like you're seeing how we're doing stuff, we're seeing how you guys are doing stuff, and you're like, oh, I like that dog. And so it kind of seems like the dog is still in the United States. It doesn't seem so unreachable. You got what I'm saying?
And that was the plan for us from day one when we created this. I mean, we're quite fortunate. As I said, we've got our own jobs. We have our own company. We're okay. We don't need to make this, monetize it. You know, we might sell a vest or a jacket, but if people knew the overheads to bring a live event or bring, you know, an interview or do whatever, you know, it's a lot of time and it's a lot of money that does it. It doesn't really cover anything. It's more done for a hobby. And when we first started out, and people kind of asked, you know, what made you do it? What was the purpose of it? It was simply because we needed it. We were struggling to find people
just learning knowledge
because it's not a, there is no such thing as one person owns it all. There's no such thing as I go to this guy and he'll teach me everything I need to know about dogs. This guy will teach me everything I need to know about. No, honestly, it doesn't exist. That person will have his experience based on the type of dogs he likes. You go there with the type of dog you like, or the type of dog you're working, or the type of breed, or whatever, you're going to have a bad time. And, we notice that a lot. And obviously a lot of information is hand-me-downs, because as I said to you, there is no universal graduation for dog trainers. There's, shitty week courses and day courses or whatever, but it doesn't make you a dog trainer overnight, So
you have to see it.
You have to see, you have to experience, you have to meet these people, you have to understand. So I remember when I met James Gurry, that first time, man, I was like, damn, you're saying stuff that I totally and utterly understand, like when it was, I was like, it's like talking to a mirror at one stage. I was like, damn, where's this guy? Where have you been all my life? I was the one talking about something here in the UK, and people were like, no, don't listen to Muzz. And all of a sudden, James was saying it, and I was like, listen to this guy. He's speaking sense, And the same thing when Charlie came over, or when you were here, or when Ty was here, and it's kind of all these American people that were on Facebook that people were looking at and saying, look at what they do, look what I say. Meet them firsthand, and you kind of go, actually, that makes sense. I was like, why was he doing it this way? Why was he doing it that way?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's helped a lot of, you're right, it's helped a lot of people sell dogs. It's helped a lot of people make connections. It's helped a lot of people find trainers. It's helped a lot of people buy dogs, right? So I think it's been a force for good. You're also right. I think we do sometimes get drama, and we also sometimes get shit that we don't deserve, right? When you're managing 270,000 people, there is no way in hell two people can manage what 270,000 people will say. It just doesn't, there's no way, you have to.
It's quite difficult, where sometimes we're stuck in the middle, where we're not trying to be like on either one side, but let's say something went wrong between the transaction between two people, and people are like, oh, you support this guy because you allow them to post, and do you mean the other person?
Oh yeah, no, I definitely know what you mean. Like, it's not for that. Like,
it's not for that.
Yeah, right. Back in the day, before the internet, there was newspaper, right? So if I went into the newspaper and I was searching for a dog or a car part or whatever, and I bought it, you're not gonna go to the writer of the newspaper and say,
New York Times,
they ripped me off. You support this? You're not gonna do that.
Yeah.
So it's just people, man. They just need somebody to complain to, I guess, to vent to.
Yeah,
but
we get that. I think sometimes that's kind of annoying, and I think the other thing that also frustrates. It's not often now. I think it's a lot better. We've really wound down the group in terms of what can be posted, so it's become a lot easier to manage. And obviously, when you're young, you've got teething problems, and it's a little bit difficult. And you're right. I think sometimes there is that element of people almost kind of expect. They kind of think it's a free service, but it's not a service that I'm providing solely for you. This is a kind of community forum that everybody can use.
There's also this kind of like thing now, the cancel culture. Like if somebody doesn't believe the way you believe, or the masses believe in lockstep key, and they don't walk that way, they want to just remove you from the situation just for your opinion. I'm like, whatever happened to freedom of speech? I should be able to have my opinion, and you should be able to sit well the same way you want me to sit with your opinion. But it doesn't work like that. No. And I'm like, these people are crazy.
That's some bullshit. Right? That we dealt with. That's some real bullshit. I never understood that kind of. You can have a different opinion, like you said. I mean, you could be the biggest piece of shit I know, right? As long as I'm not here, I'm not having business conversations with you. I'm not getting into bed with you. We're not, doesn't matter to me. It's an opinion that you hold. I can have that opinion that counters your opinion, or we could agree on that opinion. It's like saying, oh, because, I don't know, I don't like this person, but he said the sky is blue, so I'm going to disagree. No, the sky ain't blue. The sky is red because you said it. It's like, it's crazy. It's like, you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. It doesn't work that way. So you've just got to, I think sometimes people get way too emotional about this thing. And as I said to you, I think the dog world is, it's a little bit emotional sometimes.
It can be.
Yeah. The dog. So the real thing is you get flack from dog trainers, and I really don't get any issues with regular civilians, like people who are not just people who have pets. I have no problem with them. I have all of my issues come from other people who train who are like
On
your
Facebook.
peers or competition or the people that you should be networking with.
Yeah.
That's where all the trouble comes from. If I set up a page and it was just I didn't accept any other trainers, I would be stress-free.
And imagine our page is all trainers.
Yes.
So
The working dog group is, yes.
All trainers. So
it tells a lot like how people politic, right? So like say you have a guy, he is not so liked in the dog world, but he puts on an amazing video. He wins some type of accomplishes something. You'll see his thing is gonna have 18 to 25 likes. Another guy who's garbage at training will post a video of something. It sucks. It's not something that I don't even think they should post. It's gonna have 350 likes and a bunch of comments because this guy is a likable guy. You got what I'm saying?
That's the biggest problem.
And I'm like, man, you should. I hit the like button when I like something. If I don't like it, I'm not gonna like it just because you're my friend. You got what I'm saying? Somebody came up to me and asked me, oh, we kind of got into a little spat, and he said, man, you don't support me. You don't even like my stuff.
We get that.
And so I said, listen to me. I would not post this online, but I'm going to tell you this to your face. I don't like it because I don't like it.
Shit.
Like
that's why.
I really don't like it. And this is what happens. I believe that people respect my opinion as a trainer, right? And so you can see who liked the post. So when I have people who respect me look at the post and it's like, why did he like that garbage? You know what I'm saying? And then you're diminishing my reputation from liking stuff that I really don't like. I'm just double clicking because you're a person that is in my club, or I know you, or you're a friend of a friend, you know. And so
I think where it's difficult for people as well to understand is I like things that are good for that level of person, right? So that person is he's 6 months into the dog game. He's a young kid who's come in and he's just starting to learn to do a bit of obedience. I'm going to hit the love button on that and say, well done. That doesn't mean I say it's the best thing in the world. That's me saying, well done for sticking at it for 6 months. Because I know 6 months ago, your dog was real shit. Now, at least he's looking at you once every 20 minutes. Yeah, you've done something there. There's enough hate and there's enough negativity in the world for us not to be so judgmental about everything that's put out there. That said, I think good trainers recognize good work. And what annoys me sometimes, and you know it, and I've seen it, and I can point you to about, I don't know, multiple number of videos that I can show you where it's, 500,000 views, 10 likes. I know you're watching, right? I know you're loving what you're seeing, but I know it kills you to see what you're seeing, right?
Yes.
Because it's just, that to me is what annoys me the most, is people wanting you to almost fail. And it's so prevalent in the dog world because you just have to be in a...
I think because everyone's in competition almost. Like if you think about it, like there's a lot of breeders, let's say, so that is this form of competition already.
Because someone has to be best. Because someone has to be... But I say there's no such thing as you could be the best at one thing, doesn't mean you're the best at everything, right?
Yeah.
When we spoke about bull herders a second ago, I said to you, I can see their benefit. They are the best at something. But that doesn't mean I'm going to say, oh, because they're good at that, everyone else is shit, right? It doesn't work like that. And that's what it kind of annoys me sometimes, is when this almost a very tribal, weird culture. If I'm in this clique, I cannot like anybody in that clique. If I breed bull herders, all of a sudden now I've got to say all Malleys are shit because that's why I'm doing it. If I breed Malleys, I've got to say all bull herders are shit. If I do pressers, I've got to say this is shit. And it's crazy because it's like cars, right?
Yeah.
I'll take a Ferrari to go do a nice run day on a track. I'll take a rally car to do a rally track. I'll take a Land Rover to go off-road. But I ain't going to take a Ferrari to go off-road, right? It doesn't make sense, right? And vice versa. I'm not going to take a fucking Hummer to go on the Formula One track because I'll lose. And the whole point of this is being able to look at something and say, I like that about that dog. But for the same thing, you should be, as a person, able to say, I don't like that about dog, and not be chastised.
Yeah, you can't say that. Well, right? Because some people live vicariously through their dogs. And I don't know if you see this or not. So like people, they get a dog, they exude their toughness through the dog. And then you start asking the dog to do things that are super unreasonable and doesn't even make sense. So like there's the test with the dog, and they're like, oh, we're testing this dog's natural response to something, right? And then there's this big thing of I ran your dog versus training confusion. And if I explain that to somebody as a judge, just say I'm judging the competition, and there's a dog, his tail's wagging, he's excited, but he doesn't engage the man, and then the decoy's like, get out of here. I'm like, he didn't really run. That was confusion. He's not scared of the man, right? And then there's a dog that shuts down and he's curls his tails and his ears back, and then he's like, and he runs back to his owner. He won't even stand up right. He got ran. You got what I'm saying? And there's a difference. And so people they just try to live their life through a dog. And sometimes they're just like, what the hell was I doing? Oh yeah, we was popping out on this dog in this like a ghillie suit, right?
Yeah.
But the dog, this is about to happen, but the dog doesn't. Yeah. And there's this moment of like, what is that? And then they kind of look up. Some dogs engage, some dogs start barking. And I really don't feel like that's fair. Like, I mean, if an alien came that we've never seen before and just jumped in front of us, I'm going to be like, should I fight it? What should I, you know what I'm saying? It's just going to be a segment of confusion. And we expect the dog to see that, something that he's never seen before, and go forward.
Right. So the ghillie man for me is one of my favorite things when I watch, right? Because it's probably the biggest load of shit that you can ever come across. You can train that, quote unquote, genetically, not so genetically, by effectively conditioning. So that's one way of doing it. Yeah. So there's the guys who will train their dogs in ghillie suits. First, they'll have the guy in the suit with the head out, so the dog knows. Then the guy gets a little bit lower, and then eventually the dog knows, I get a bite when I see that weird swamp thing walking, right? That's one. And then they'll say, look how strong my dog is. It's done the ghillie man test. Okay, great. That's bullshit. Two is the type that have trained their dog. When you say, Stellan, doesn't matter what it is in front of you, I bite it, right? So you train that over time, and the dog just effectively treats the bite as an object that I don't really care. I say, oh, Polizzi, boom, Stellan, he's like, cool, I'm biting that, I'm biting this. He can put a glass man and he'll bite the glass, bite a tree, he'll bite whatever it is. Again, not particularly impressive. It's just a case of you've trained that element through the dog, God knows how many times. And then you'll see these poor bastards that will read the blurb somebody will post, pure genetics, never done it before, never seen this before, he's on his own home field, he's in the same fucking suit that he's been biting for 30 fucking months or whatever it is, he's in the same environment, pumped up, amped up, hearing all the dogs bark, and they're like, oh, it's pure genetics. And I said, if you want to test genetics and you want to test the dog failing, it's very easy to arrange that. There's a very easy test for it. But nobody wants to do that. What they want to do is they want to do these scenarios that are pre-scripted, well-worked, well-rehearsed, and the dog's done all the basic foundations of it, and then you do it. And that's why I say I feel sorry for the new guys that come in who buy into this. It's like the surprise attack. They buy into, oh, it's a real surprise, but it isn't a real surprise. That guy is geeing up the dog for the past 20 yards. He's telling him, watch him, watch him, watch him. What do you think the dog's going through his head? He's already ready to go. It's not a real surprise attack if it's on your field or the dog's ready.
Right.
You're just looking at a dog that's under control if he's sitting down. You're
right.
looking at a dog that's...
I test my dog every once in a while, and I want it to be a true test. Like, I may be at a fast food restaurant, and I may have my dog with me, and I may call my buddy and say, hey, I'm about to go through the line, and I'm ordering my food. I want you to just come and just do your thing. He does it. My dog reacts the way it should. I'm happy. We may not do that for another year.
Yeah.
With that being said, that some of those tests have its place, and I wouldn't wash a dog for that. I would wash it, just depending on how he failed. But just for like confusion, I kind of wouldn't do that, because I feel like that's unfair. But like surprise attacks, stuff like that, there's a gray area to where if your dog is how he is when he's out of drive. How he is when he's at the house. If he shows you these little quirky things and he's like nervy because the trash bag moves a certain way or something falls in the kitchen.
You don't need to do a surprise attack. You know
Right.
your dog's gonna have that.
Right. You know that. So like if I have a puppy and okay, just say I take out a whole litter and I back tie all of them to the fence. I'm gonna put my shoe out. If he bites my shoe, I'm gonna put a pipe out. I'm gonna put different things that feel different in his mouth. This hasn't really failed me yet. A dog that grabs anything that comes in front of him is usually gonna be good biting. He's gonna be phenomenal in bite work. And then as far as nerve is concerned, I just let him out. I let him out. I let him see my pigs. I let him see what's the first thing that they do when they see something that they've never seen before. And then I just evaluate how they naturally act. Do they stop moving? I run, I shoot the gun, and I have them chasing me. If they're chasing me and they stop when they hear it versus like, oh, this is just part of the game and they keep going, you're going to have issues with that dog later on. Like usually when I say I don't like that about him, it's coming back. Even if the dog does phenomenal, later on in life, you sell them to a police department or something, then they calling you 2 years later, say, oh man, he failed, he didn't pass handler school, whatever. But a lot of people just don't want to be honest with themselves and the dog and the selection.
I agree with that.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
I think sometimes, like we were just saying as well, like earlier today, like when you see like puppies and sometimes the initial reaction to something they don't like is normally what they're gonna do when they're older. Like they can have very, 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 very good recovery, but they always revert back to that initial reaction where if it's something that they don't like, most likely some freeze, some run, some go forward, you know? So there's only 3 really reactions. And, you know, the ones that go back, they might have very good recovery, but, you know, and they might be okay with it after a few times seeing it. But if it's something when they're older that they don't know and they see it, that spook them again, the same thing. The first reaction is to run. But that's because that, you know, and I can see that in a puppy. And I think everyone, you know, some people don't mind it, you know, unless depending on what you're doing. But I think these things, certain things you can see from a young age, like 7, 8 weeks old.
Yeah, some things you can definitely see from a young age.
Like,
you got to know what you want to do. When you get a dog, you have to have a plan. Because some people are all over the place. They're like, oh, I'm going to do PSA. Then, oh, I'm going to do personal protection. And oh, I'm going to do this. And it switches so much that you're confusing the dog through training. You know what I'm saying? So, because nothing's
it's not fair.
You're
teaching them things that are not part of the dog. You cannot expect the dog to be everything to everyone. And that comes back to the next point, which is the biggest mistake I always find in a dog world is people confuse personal protection with guard dog, with sport, with PP, with deployment, with agility, with, you know, dog diver. You know, this is the biggest curse I think in the dog world is, and it comes from, and I'll be straight, it comes from charlatans, and it comes from people who are usually puppy peddlers who will try to grab as much of an audience as they can to say my dog is everything to all people, and that then creates this illusion that these dogs they can be everything. They're the home pets that you can leave with your children unattended, that are also the killers that can take on 20 men, that are also home guardians that will take on, you know, and they also grow wings and they fly off and, you know, it's absolute bullshit. And the problem is nobody wants to call it out. And it is the truth of what happens. Now you take a pup today and you look at its genetics and you look at things. There's certain things you can forgive, certain things you can't forgive, depending on what you're planning to do with the dog.
Right.
If I was planning tomorrow to do, I don't know, a PSA with it, I would know that I need a certain level of drive. But do I really need a dog that is naturally suspicious? Do I really need a dog that is going to be hyper guardy around this, you know, around this stuff? These are things then you go, is it going to matter to me if that dog isn't so, but I probably have a very good nerve, right? Vice versa, if I'm doing IPO tomorrow, I can probably forgive a dog that gets spooked once out of every, 100 times, when I can say, well, I never need to encounter these things when I'm doing this thing with this dog, right? I can live with it because he ticks all these other boxes for me. But that bullshit where it's a hunting dog, it's an agility dog, it's a protection dog, it's a guardian, it's this, there isn't such a thing. You are going to lose things in certain aspects when a dog's doing certain things.
Right.
If you want it to be super chilled with kids, you cannot have a highly strung Mali. The minute someone says to me, my dog is fantastic with the children, I leave him with it. I just think, well, he must be quite a slow driven dog. He can't be that intense. It's just, I know what they like. All it takes is for the kid to scream 2 things, pull on something, and a dog thinks, hey, it's the game. Let's go. Let me chase it. kid's running something, he's running after it, they don't know about it. Then you have to correct the dog, right? Then you got to say, no, no, no. Then you start breaking the dog's natural ability to get into, flash. Then he becomes a thinking dog, right? And then you say, how could then that same dog be that same type of level of intensity when it, so it's just, it all, I just think there's too much of that going on where, people trying to paint this broad brush.
Yeah, and it even breaks more down to picking that dog. Like
Right.
you can have dogs in the litter, and I'll say, hey, this puppy is not, like, say somebody comes look at a litter of puppies. I'm like, this dog's not for you. He's a little too much. He's a little too much for your liking. I've sold you dogs before. I know what you like. This is not it. And they're like, man, well, I want a dog. Blah blah blah.
Yeah, they want it.
Listen, every time I've compromised, I end up getting a dog back. Almost every time. Like I just got a dog back because the dog is super, super, super high strung. I can't hold him. It's 10 weeks old. I cannot hold him without scruffing him and without getting bit. That's just is what it is. And then, I sell him. The dog comes back. I'm talking about within a week. He's like, man, I can't do it. He's way different than the dog you gave before. I'm like, hey, I told you need a pet. You need a calm dog. You need a dog that's gonna, not calm. None of them are calm, but you need a dog that's gonna be a little more even kill.
It's a calmer dog. As I said, there's different levels to it, and I think it's just that concept of my dog is, or I'm breeding the dog for all people, or this dog will be suitable for all jobs. Absolutely everything you put in front of it. It's just it's an illusion, and it's an illusion that even the craziest, most extreme, most unbelievably highly strung dogs cannot do certain things in certain environments. It's just that there's no such thing as, once you've seen enough dogs out and about and you know what they're like when they're off, when they're switched on, when they're, you get to see and get to assess, okay, this dog is fantastic in this situation, but you take that away from the dog and you start putting him in a totally different environment, and he's a different dog. He doesn't think of it that way.
A lot of it's marketing though. Like if, like you said, it's gonna come from people who have a product and they have to move it. And I don't know if you hear people talk and they just say somebody puts on the concert. What are they gonna say? This is the best concert you've ever done. Nobody's gonna say
this is okay.
Okay, this is okay. It's mid-level. It's not too crazy. It's not blah, blah, blah. They're not gonna play it down if they want the masses to give them attention. This is the best. This is the only. I'm the first. You know what I'm saying? All of those things are gonna be, and then especially if it's something new. If you mix two dogs and that's not really a thing, and then you get your own line of type of dog, people are gonna go for that. And you have to think also that 75% more than that. It's probably 80% of the people on this planet are not educated dog people. Like they don't know nothing about dogs. So they're just like, hey, those Malinois things seem to be pretty good. Just imagine how you were when you bought the Shepherd. Just imagine yourself in that state.
Mayonnaise. Nice Belgian mayonnaise. That's it. Yeah, that's a really nice Belgian mayonnaise you have.
Yeah.
Can I have one, please? Yeah.
Yes, indeed. So listen, man, we are about an hour and 18 minutes. What all gear do you guys have out now?
What gear?
Gear, like the training vest, the
fan. Wow, we've got everything now. So we're doing so we're hoping that between the UK and the US now, it's become a lot easier to ship stuff. So we're hoping we do ship quite a lot of stuff to the US. So we got the vests. We do now 3 different types of vests. Well, actually 4 different types of vests. We do the jackets, we do the skirts, which are the utility belts, and we're doing these trousers. We've also got the new collars coming out in 10 days. So there'll be 3 different colors for that as well. So yeah, and obviously the fans, the Anyway fans, which is, in Europe now, they're probably one of the most sold fans out here. So yeah, we're still busy doing what we do with the brand, and we're still pushing it, and obviously constantly learning, trying to get better and better. But yeah, we're hoping in the next 2 to 3 years, if things get better with Corona, we get to title these dogs and work settles down a little bit. We're planning to do a little road trip to the USA, hopefully grab a little RV, get some of the dogs over and just travel coast to coast really and see everybody and trying to meet people. And if we do PSA, that'd be even cooler. Yeah.
Oh, that'd be great. That'd be great. Y'all have to come kick it here, though.
Oh, for sure. I'm coming straight over, bro.
Yeah, don't be going to nowhere else. And then guess what I'm gonna make when y'all come?
Cheese. Don't make nothing with cheese in it. Yeah.
No cheese, no cheese. Sweet tea. Were you there when I made the tea?
Yes,
that was
you did.
amazing.
That was
amazing.
Yeah, so that was like the trip, part of the whole trip. I'm like, I need sweet tea. Who's the guy? What's the guy's name? Who's the guy who kind of helped us out and hosted us, drives around? Long hair. He has his wife is like an actor, or girlfriend's like an actor.
Richard. Yeah, Richard.
Okay, so yeah, Richard. I had him take me to the store, and I'm like, man, I really need tea to make this tea. So they was looking at me so weird until I made it. And I was
like, what's this guy? He's come all the way from America to make sweet tea.
We always had milk and tea.
Yeah, you're putting milk in the tea. I'm like, no, that's not how you do it, bro. You have to put the hot water, boil the tea bags, put some sugar in it, mix it up, let it sit, get some ice. Yeah, I swear I made like 3 gallons that one night. It was going.
You was a chef. You were cooking some stuff, man.
Yeah, I made the taco salad and the grilled chicken.
I remember that. That was nice. Yeah, that was nice. Oh, that's why I said we had our debates about cheese. That's where I remember. I recall this conversation back then, and I was like, look, American cheese isn't real cheese, and the whole, and you're like, how could you insult a whole continent? I was like, dude, you guys need to check out your ingredients. This isn't real cheese. Like, that's why we don't import your cheese over here. And you're like, oh no, my cheese is the best cheese. I was like, dude, this cheese doesn't even melt.
I'm like a cheese connoisseur though. I mean, like from the time that I was little, you probably can ask my parents this. I eat cheese on everything. Cheese on my eggs, cheese on my grits, cheese potatoes, cheese on my almost everything. You can put cheese on anything and it's gonna taste good almost. I didn't eat really a lot of vegetables, so if I wanted to eat vegetables, I put cheese on to make it taste better and eat it.
That's it. Cheese is the magic formula, man.
Cheese.
We're gonna do it again. Man.
For sure. I definitely have to get back over there. Yeah, so I'm probably gonna post this. I don't know when, man. It'll probably be a few days before I finish editing and everything to put out. But yeah, I'll send it to you. But yeah, man. So it was nice having you guys on. We're completing episode 4, and I'm definitely gonna get back to the UK whenever they lift this stupid COVID ban.
Crazy shit, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed it, bro. Thank you for the time.
All right, man. You guys have a nice day. God bless.
Have a safe day. Take care, bro.
All righty.